The last bus ride. It was a Sunday evening, and I had just finished my usual workout at the gym. The air outside was freezing, and the city streets were nearly deserted. My breath curled in the air as I walked to the nearest bus stop. I had just missed my bus, and the next one wouldn't arrive for another 30 minutes. I pulled my hood up against the cold and sat on the empty bench. The only source of light was a flickering street lamp above me, casting elongated shadows across the pavement. The silence of the night felt unnerving, broken only by the occasional distant hum of a passing car. I checked my phone 10:47 p.m. A few minutes passed before I heard footsteps approaching from behind. I turned to see a man walking toward the bus stop. His clothes were disheveled, his eyes glassy and unfocused, as though he had seen something he was never meant to see. His face was pale, almost translucent under the dim street lamp, and there was something unsettling about the way his lips moved, like he was whispering to someone who wasn't there. His breath didn't fog in the cold air, unlike mine, and his fingers twitched slightly as if responding to an unseen presence. A subtle, almost imperceptible hum filled the air around him, a vibration I could feel in my chest, like the murmurs of voices just beneath the threshold of hearing. The more I focused on it, the more it grew, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to echo my own heartbeat, but slightly out of sync, as if something was trying to match it. It wasn't mechanical, nor natural. It was something else entirely, something that didn't belong in this world. He muttered something under his breath as he shuffled closer. I glanced away, pretending to be occupied with my phone, but I could feel his presence lingering near me. Then he spoke. "You waiting for the bus?" His voice was hoarse, almost strained, like he hadn't used it in days. I hesitated before nodding. "Yeah." He let out a low chuckle. "Might be a long wait." I forced a small smile, hoping he'd lose interest in the conversation. Instead, he sat down next to me on the bench, uncomfortably close. His breathing was heavy, and I could feel the tension thick in the air. "I used to take this bus all the time," he murmured, his fingers drumming against his knee. "But you gotta be careful. Not every bus is the one you should get on." My skin prickled at his words. I shifted slightly away from him. "What do you mean?" He turned his head toward me, and for the first time, I really saw his face. His skin was pale, almost sickly, and his eyes were hollow, sunken deep into his skull. His lips curled into an eerie smile. "You'll see," he whispered. The air around us grew heavier, colder. I swallowed hard, glancing down the road, praying that the bus would arrive soon. Then, I saw it. The air around me seemed to thicken, pressing against my skin like unseen hands. The headlights cut through the mist, but instead of illuminating the road, they cast long, twisting shadows that danced unnaturally. A strange static noise hummed in my ears, low and almost imperceptible, like a radio tuning into something not meant to be heard. The closer the bus came, the more the sound morphed into a distorted murmur, voices overlapping, whispering things I couldn't understand but somehow felt deep in my bones. The air grew thick with something unseen, pressing down on me like invisible hands, as if something beyond the veil of reality was reaching out. A pair of headlights emerged in the distance, cutting through the fog that had started to settle over the street. Relief flooded me as I stood up, eager to put distance between myself and the unsettling stranger. The bus slowed to a stop, its doors hissing open. But something was wrong. The interior was pitch black. No lights, no passengers, no driver. I hesitated. The unease clawing at my stomach grew unbearable. The man beside me let out a raspy chuckle. "Told you," he muttered. "Some buses, they take you places you don't want to go." I turned to him, my pulse hammering. "What the hell is this?" His grin widened, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too jagged. "Go on," he urged. "Step inside." I took a step back, my body screaming at me to run. The bus remained still, its doors open like a gaping mouth waiting to swallow me whole. A gust of air seeped out from within, carrying a scent that made my stomach twist, a mixture of damp earth, rusted metal, and something unmistakably rotten. The darkness inside wasn't empty. It pulsed, as if something within was breathing, waiting. A pair of faint, glimmering eyes appeared. Oh, not eyes, but something else. something that reflected the dim streetlight in an unnatural way, shifting as if aware of my presence. The longer I stared, the more I realized the darkness inside the bus wasn't just absence of light, it was moving, writhing, breathing. My chest tightened, a cold sweat breaking out along my spine. My legs felt locked in place, frozen by an unnatural force, but every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. My hands trembled as I tried to force myself backward, but it was as if the air around me had thickened, trapping me in place. The bus wasn't just waiting, it was pulling me in. The longer I stared, the more I swore I could see something shifting in the darkness beyond the door's figures, shadows, reaching hands. I turned and bolted, my breath coming in ragged gasps. But as I ran, the laughter behind me twisted into something else, a chorus of voices, whispering my name, stretching into the night like a chant. My shadow elongated unnaturally beneath the flickering streetlight, stretching in the opposite direction, as if something else was running alongside me, just out of sight. And for a fleeting moment, I felt something cold brush against my arm, a sensation like fingertips dragging along my skin, then disappearing into the night. My body went rigid, my breath shallow, as a distant, echoing whisper coiled around my mind. You were supposed to board. It wasn't just a sound, it was a presence. The whisper slithered through my thoughts like icy fingers pressing against my skull, each syllable vibrating inside my head. It didn't come from behind me, or even from the bus. It was everywhere, inside me, around me, suffocating the air itself. The stranger's laughter echoed behind me, blending with the hiss of the bus doors shutting. I didn't look back. I didn't stop running until I reached a crowded street, gasping for breath. When I finally turned around, the bus was gone. The man was gone. But the feeling remained like unseen eyes still watched from the shadows. And then, just before I turned back toward my apartment, I saw it. Faint, far in the distance, barely visible through the thickening fog, the glow of headlights. Still waiting. And just as I turned to walk away, I heard it again, a whisper, low and breathy, right behind me. Next time, take the ride. A chill crawled down my spine, and when I glanced at the bus stop's glass panel, a reflection stared back at me, my own, but distorted. My mouth was moving, forming words I couldn't hear. My throat felt raw, as if I had been speaking for hours, yet I had no memory of making a sound. The reflection in the bus stop's glass wasn't quite right, me. Lips moved slower than they should, like a badly synced video, forming syllables that felt ancient and wrong. A deep, instinctual terror settled in my chest as I strained to understand what I was saying. And then, just for a moment, I heard Ita's voice, my voice whispering from the glass. You left, but it's not over. It's never over. The street was empty, as if they had never been there. I never took the last bus again.